In this video I'm going to get a data set, in this case the roads of Hamilton County, New York, and show you how to use select by attributes to do some simple analyses of that data. The location that the data site that we're going to get data from this time is not Angel. This time we're going to go out into the real world, and we're going to use a very handy data site called Cougar, which stands for Cornell University Geospatial Information Repository. And there's lots of other Cougars around, but in this case the one we want is CUGIR at Cornell. And this is a data site which is getting a little stale but still useful for a lot of things. So I'm going to show you how to download this data set, and you should know some significant parallels to downloading this data set compared with how you've been downloading stuff from Angel. So next thing to do is to, since I know what county I want, I find it convenient to ask for map browse. I know Hamilton County in the Adirondacks is very large and very sparsely populated. It has very few roads, which makes it convenient for a demonstration. Things run nice and fast. So I'll click on Hamilton County, and we see that there's a really significant amount of data sets available from Cougar for Hamilton County. We're after roads, and we might as well just go ahead and type in, and a lot of the stuff is dated. But it's still very useful, and hopefully more information will come up. So roads, and we ask for download now, and it says my file is ready, and I click on my file again, and we'll shortly see a very familiar dialog box, which is the same as if we asked for this file from Angel. I'm going to say open with, Explorer, and say OK. This should be comfortable to you, and inside of that I have a folder. Inside of that I have another surprise. I actually have a zip archive inside of a zip archive. That's not hard to deal with. I can just copy this archive, and I will drop it on my desktop with a copy and a paste, and now I have the still zipped copy. It's called zip, and it has a zipper on it, which needs to be opened. Extracted, better yet. Extracted, and it'll extract it to a folder on my desktop, and it should be done any second. Now I have my roads data set stored on my desktop. And it was a case, it's the surprising case in which I had a zip archive inside of a zip archive. Inside of this folder, we will see that it is still, now it's finally succeeded, and I have an attribute table, a shapefile, and a shape index involved in this. More on that in a future class. I have an open and empty ArcMap window, and I can go ahead and, using the same method we've used before, use the this plus sign on the yellow to, and now I need to track down my data set. I'm convenient. I don't have to use the connect by folder button because I'm working at my desktop where things get saved between sessions. So I just tell it I'd like to go to my desktop. 041 stands for Hamilton County, and inside of that I find a Hamilton County data set. Right now I'm doing some processing. This is an error that we will talk about later. This is a warning that we'll talk about later in the term spatial referencing systems, but we can ignore it today for what we're going to do. It is important, but we can ignore it today. My computer's running slowly because it's in the process of uploading my previous lecture as well as making a new one. This is the whole of Hamilton County, a very large county with a very sparse road network. In fact, many of these road networks, many of these roads are dirt roads or trails and barely what you'd call a road at all. We can, and it's very interesting to explore the roads data sets, and I'd encourage encourage you to do that, and encourage you to look at these roads data sets and perhaps add a base map to Hamilton County to see how sparse it is. Some of these completely roadless areas are as much as 5 miles across, areas without any hint or trace of any kind of a road. So it makes an interesting study area. I'm adding a base map, which now I'm sorry I did. I'm going to cancel that. It's running too slowly. The focus for today's lesson, however, is you can add a base map too as you do your exercise. Your exercise this week will be using this same data set pretty much the same way I'm about to demonstrate. I can right click on this name right here and right click and say please open the attribute table for me, and it will show me that my attribute table gets stored in a simultaneous space as my table of contents. It's just my configuration, and it will show me that I have a whole bunch of information about each road segment, of which there's 4,000 and some road segments in Hamilton County. It'll show that some of these roads are named, some are state highways, some are not even named. They're probably trivial local roads or driveways or dirt roads or jeep trails up there. What I'd like to call your attention to, which will be the lesson for this week and the exercise, is something called the CFCC. And I think this is called the Census Feature Classification Code. And what it is the census gives a three digit or 3-character code to every feature that the census uses geographically. The A stands for roads, the second digit stands for the type of road, and the third digit is a subtype of road. And what we have here is, I just know by memory from having used them, that an A41 is a local road, an A21 is a major road, either a state highway or a federal major highway, and A7s are dirt roads or minor trails. And what we're going to do with the select by attribute here is we're going to see how we can go ahead and identify all of the roads that are designated as A41, meaning that they're local roads of some sort. The precise definition of what an A41 is included in your or your exercise activity sheet for the week. The tool that I want to show, and there's been a lot of background and a lot of messing around, the tool I want to show you is extremely commonly used, very powerful, and it only takes me it's only take me a minute to show you, but it's extremely important. It's under the selection menu, and if I click on that, I can get something called Select by Attributes. And if I choose that, I now get a dialog box that I can work with. It looks a little complicated at first, but it's not bad. Using this particular dialog box is so common. It's one of the fundamental skills of GIS. What I'd like to do is, in this case I don't have any choice, I only have one layer available. I'd like to look at my roads layer, which has a goofy name, and I'd like to create a new selection, and you'll see what exactly that means in about a minute. And I would like to scroll down and choose as my data type the CFCC, which codes for the type of road, CFCC. And the trick here, which is annoying as heck, is I need to double click on that, and that'll appear, and now CFCC in its proper form with quotes and stuff that it's needed will appear in the dialog or in the box down below. What I'd next like to do is single click on the equal sign, which it'll build my expression in this dialog box. And what I'm going to do next is choose this button called Get Unique Values, which will show me all of the different types of CFCCs that are in this data set. And I chose Hamilton County this is a relatively short list in a simple data set, and I'm going to double click on A41. And this right here is called a query. I'm going to pick all of the roads that have a type of A41, meaning that they're local roads. They're genuine roads, but they're minor roads. And now I say OK, and the result is that all of the CFCC A41s are now selected. We have all the local roads have been selected. They have this particularly notable color of blue, and each of them in the attribute table is also turned blue. So Herb Road is an A41, French Road is an A41, Kilburn Road, some unnamed piece of road is named that. So all these roads are now are now selected, and it turns out it's the majority of roads in Hamilton County. Now I have the ability to do something very powerful, and what I have the ability to do is to take my pointer and aim into that heading of the length column, another attribute, and right click and say statistics. And what I end up with is a statistics, and what it tells me here is that I have 503 miles, 0.7088 miles of A41 type local roads in Hamilton County. So I've discovered quite a bit by that operation, and that's not very many roads for a very large county. So that's one way to do select by attributes, which is fundamental. You can review that if you need to. I won't go through over it again. What I want to do next is show you one other way to select by attributes in a computation you can make. So the computation of I can do, and what I need to do first is go back to my selection menu and say clear selected. So now that selection is all wiped out, and now I can go ahead and do another cool thing. I can aim on top of CFCC and say sort ascending. In this case it's better, and what I'm going to do is discover that there are A21s. There's only A21s, but what I want to just demonstrate is I could go ahead and, oh, there's A31s. So in this case what I think I'll go ahead and do is manually select in the attribute table by clicking in the very far left. I can click inside of there, hold down my left mouse button, and drag all the way down the table, very similarly to what I would do in the case of a spreadsheet, and select all the A21s and A31s. This is a convenient technique if you have, I screwed it up, but that's a very convenient technique. I got most of them. I'm going to go ahead and solve it with just most of them. This is a very convenient technique if you want to select like 9 different types of something in an attribute table, and you don't want to go to the dialog box and say CFCC equals A11, or CFCC equals A12, or CFCC equals A13. That'll get tedious. I can just sort and select them manually, and what I see now is that major and middling roads in Hamilton County are these, at least most of them. I missed a few. And this is the picture that I'd like you to create a PDF of. All the A21s and A31s, I think that's the exercise, I'm flexible, that are in Hamilton County, and create a PDF and submit that. Now I can go ahead and find out the total length of all of the A21s and A31s. The actual exercise you do might be slightly different. By right-clicking, asking for statistics, finding out that there are actually 233 miles of moderately significant roads in Hamilton County. And I think that's all the time I have for in this video.